"What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?" It's a line so simple, so mundane, it should have been forgotten the second it aired. It was spoken in a hushed, paranoid tone by a wife to her husband, who was on the phone at 3 in the morning. The husband, trying to de-escalate, hands the phone over. She grabs it and barks the question. And on the other end, a slightly confused, impossibly earnest voice replies, "Khakis. That's it. That's the entire punchline. A joke about pants." And yet, that single bizarre exchange didn't just sell insurance. It burrowed its way into the American psyche. It became a meme before we even had a good word for it. It became a nationwide inside joke. A Halloween costume. The real guy who played Jake, an actual State Farm employee from Normal, Illinois, became a minor celebrity overnight, just for wearing beige pants. Now, I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. Think about the last ad you saw on YouTube before this video. Can you remember the brand? Can you remember the product? Can you remember a single thing about it? Probably not. Think about the last marketing campaign your own company ran, or the last video you poured your heart and soul into creating. Did it get quoted back to you by strangers? Did people start dressing up as your logo for Halloween? For 99.9% of us, the answer is a resounding no. We spend thousands, even millions of dollars and countless hours screaming into the void, creating content that is technically good, professionally shot, and strategically sound, but it just evaporates. It's digital smoke. It leaves no trace in the minds of our audience. We are fighting a war for attention with content that is utterly, tragically forgettable. This is the problem this video is going to solve for you. We are going to dissect piece by piece the storytelling engine that powers a State Farm commercial. And I'm not talking about surface-level stuff like be funny or have a good jingle. I'm talking about the deep, psychological architecture, the hidden narrative frameworks that make these 30-second spots more memorable than most Hollywood blockbusters. By the time we're done, you will understand the specific, repeatable techniques that insurance adjusters from Bloomington, Illinois have mastered to become some of the most effective storytellers on the planet. And you'll be able to take that blueprint and apply it to your ads, your content, your sales pitches, even the way you tell a story at a dinner party, to make your message not just heard, but impossible to forget. This isn't about selling insurance. This is about mastering the art of being remembered. The genius of that first Jake from State Farm ad wasn't the joke itself. The joke is fine. It's cute. The genius was the story. Let's break it down. It's a classic 3-act structure in miniature. Act 1, the setup. A husband is on the phone at 3 a.m. The context immediately tells us everything we need to know. This is suspicious. His wife is right there, her face a mask of simmering rage and distrust. The central conflict is established in less than 5 seconds. Marital suspicion. It's a universal, deeply relatable human anxiety. Act 2, the confrontation. The wife's suspicion boils over. She snatches the phone. This is the moment of rising action, the point of no return. She confronts the mysterious voice on the other end. "What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?" The accusation is dripping with sarcasm and disbelief. She's not asking about his clothes, she's testing a lie. And Act 3, the resolution. The punchline. Khakis. The answer is so mundane, so boring, so utterly devoid of seduction that it completely shatters the wife's narrative. Her theory of a sordid affair collapses in on itself, replaced by the ridiculous image of a call center employee in pleated pants. The conflict is resolved not with a fight, but with an absurd, humorous anticlimax. That tiny, perfect story arc is why it works. It's not just a commercial, it's a microfilm. It taps into a real human emotion, jealousy, and then subverts our expectations with a gentle, harmless laugh. They didn't sell you a policy. They didn't list their competitive rates or talk about bundling your home and auto. They sold you a feeling. The feeling of a misunderstanding resolved. The feeling of relief. And they attached that feeling permanently to their brand. Think about the sheer power of that. They took a low-budget ad with a real employee who had zero acting experience and created a character so iconic, so valuable, that a decade later, when the original Jake left the company, they didn't just retire the character. No, they held auditions. They hired a professional actor, Kevin Miles, to become the new Jake from State Farm. They literally recast a character from a 30-second commercial like he was James Bond. That's not marketing. That's world building. That's a brand that understands they're not in the insurance business. They're in the story business. Over the course of this analysis, we are going to expose the entire playbook. We're going to deconstruct how they use the benign violation theory to craft jokes that are funny without ever being offensive or punching down, creating a sense of safe, inclusive humor that appeals to the widest possible audience. We are going to break down their character archetype strategy, showing you how every single one of their ads features a specific type of hero and a specific type of guide, a formula that builds subconscious trust with the viewer in seconds. We'll look at the She Shed commercial, the Get a Room ad with the car and the pole, the brilliant Cliff Paul campaign with Chris Paul's long-lost twin brother. Each one is another masterclass, another case study in narrative efficiency. We'll explore how they use sound design, pacing, and even the strategic use of silence to heighten emotional stakes and make their punchlines land with the force of a comedic sledgehammer. You see, what State Farm understands better than almost any company in the world is that the human brain doesn't run on data. It runs on stories. We are wired on a deep evolutionary level to pay attention to, remember, and share compelling narratives. A list of features is just noise. A statistic is forgettable. But a story about a suspicious wife and a guy in khakis? That becomes a legend. It's a Trojan horse that carries your brand message directly into the most fortified part of your customer's mind, their long-term memory. So the question isn't just, how did they do it? The real question is, how can you do it? How can you stop making noise and start telling stories? It all begins with a foundational principle that governs every single creative decision they make. It's the core philosophy that separates forgettable ads from cultural landmarks. They understand that before you can sell someone a solution, you must first make them feel seen in their problem. And the story of how they achieve that starts not with a clever line of copy, but with a deep and empathetic understanding of one single universal human fear: the fear of the unraveling. It's a quiet dread that lives in the back of our minds. It's not the fear of a single event, like a car accident or a hailstorm. It's the fear of the chain reaction that follows. The fear that one loose thread, one moment of bad luck, one unexpected catastrophe can cause the entire tapestry of the life you've so carefully woven to come completely undone. Think about it. A minor fender bender isn't just about a dented bumper. It's the argument on the side of the road. It's the missed meeting at work. It's the week of phone calls to body shops and rental car companies. It's the sudden unexpected bill that throws your entire monthly budget into chaos. A burst pipe in your basement isn't just about wet carpet. It's the frantic search for a plumber at 2 in the morning. It's the destruction of irreplaceable family photos. It's the feeling of violation, the sense that your sanctuary, your home, has been invaded by chaos. This is the unraveling. It's the moment control is ripped from your hands. The life you understood, the schedule you kept, the financial stability you counted on, it all gets thrown into a blender. And in that moment of pure high-stakes anxiety, the last thing you want to think about is the fine print on a policy document. The last thing you want to do is navigate an automated phone tree or argue with a stranger in a call center 1,000 miles away. What you want, what you desperately need in that moment, is for someone to show up and say, "I've got this. We're going to make this right." For decades, the insurance industry completely missed this. They were selling a product, not a promise. Their advertising was a race to the bottom, a screaming match of numbers and mascots. It was a sea of sameness, a blur of cartoon geckos, distinguished-looking generals, and goofy characters falling through roofs. And their message was almost always the same. We are cheap. Save 15%. Bundle and save. Lower your deductible. They were speaking the language of logic and finance to a problem that is felt in the gut. They were trying to sell a calculator to someone having a panic attack. They were all selling the what, a policy, a piece of paper, a legal agreement. But they were failing to sell the why, the restoration of order, the return to normalcy, the deep primal human need for security. They were marketing a commodity, and in a commodity market, the only thing that matters is price. But State Farm understood something profound. They recognized that insurance isn't a commodity you buy like a gallon of milk. It's a relationship you enter into. It's a promise you purchase for a future, unknown moment of crisis. And in that moment, you won't care if you save $12 a month. You will only care about one thing. Is anyone going to help me? This was the foundational insight that changed everything. State Farm decided to stop selling insurance and start selling something else entirely. A neighbor. This wasn't just a clever marketing gimmick. It was a complete reframing of the entire business. They looked at the fear of the unraveling, at that feeling of being lost, alone, and overwhelmed, and they crafted the perfect antidote. What is the opposite of a cold, faceless corporation? A neighbor. What is the opposite of an automated phone system? A familiar face from your own community. Who do you turn to when you have a small, immediate crisis? You don't call a CEO. You knock on your neighbor's door. A neighbor is someone who helps you jumpstart your car on a cold morning. They're the one who collects your mail when you're on vacation. They bring you a casserole when you're going through a tough time. A neighbor is built on a foundation of trust, proximity, and shared community. They are, by their very definition, there. This concept tapped into a powerful, almost mythic American ideal. The ideal of community, of looking out for one another, of knowing that you're not alone. And they condensed this entire powerful philosophy into 5 simple magical words. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Let's break down the sheer genius of this slogan, because it is one of the most effective pieces of branding in history. It's not a jingle, it's a thesis statement. First, like a good neighbor. This is an instant positioning statement. It doesn't say like a good insurance company. It says like a good neighbor. It immediately frames the relationship not as transactional, but as personal and helpful. It borrows all the positive equity we associate with the word neighbor: trust, reliability, kindness, proximity, and attaches it directly to their brand name. They are not a corporation. They are a member of your community. Then comes the most important part. State Farm is there. Notice the verb. It's not will be there. It's not can be there. It is the present tense is. This implies an immediate, almost supernatural presence. It suggests that in the very moment of crisis, they already exist in that space with you. It's a statement of fact, a declaration of constant readiness. It's a promise of intervention. When the unraveling begins, when chaos strikes, they are not on their way. They are already there. This simple phrase transformed the company's agents from salespeople into protagonists. They were no longer just the people who sold you a policy. They were now the heroes of the story, the friendly face appearing in the smoke, the calm voice in the middle of the storm. State Farm had identified the universal villain, the chaos of the unraveling, and they had created the perfect hero to fight it: the good neighbor. Every commercial they would create from that point on became a small parable, a demonstration of this promise in action. The story was always the same, just with different characters and different disasters. Person is in trouble. They are overwhelmed. They are experiencing the unraveling. And then, through some mechanism, the good neighbor appears, vanquishes the chaos, and restores order. They weren't just selling a product. They were selling a recurring narrative where their agent was always the hero, and you, the customer, were always the one being rescued. They had found their core story. They had defined their hero. They had created a promise so powerful and so simple that it could be sung in a few seconds. But a promise is just words, and a jingle is just a tune. To make it real, to make it gospel in the minds of millions of Americans, State Farm had to turn this concept into a repeatable cinematic formula. They had to invent a new kind of commercial, one where the jingle wasn't just background music. It was the magic wand that changed the entire story. So how do you turn a jingle into a magic wand? You build a world where it has actual literal power. The creative minds at State Farm, along with their longtime ad agency DDB, engineered a narrative structure so potent, so perfectly simple, that it would define their advertising for decades. It's a 3-act play, compressed into 30 seconds of television, and it always starts with chaos. Act 1, the calamity. This is the moment every homeowner, every driver, secretly dreads. It's not a hypothetical problem. It's a visceral, immediate disaster unfolding on screen. A distracted husband leaves a pan on the stove, and suddenly the kitchen is filled with thick black smoke, the fire alarm shrieking like a banshee. A teenager, having just gotten their license, misjudges a parking spot and crunches the front end of the family minivan into a brick wall. A massive oak tree, once a point of pride in the front yard, is now a splintered nightmare lying across the living room roof after a violent thunderstorm. The key to this first act is its excruciating relatability. The characters aren't caricatures. They're us. They're a husband and wife, a parent and a child. Their dialogue is panicked, fragmented, and real. What do we do? I don't know. Call somebody. You feel their stress. You see the look of wide-eyed horror as they survey the damage. State Farm isn't just showing you a problem. They are making you feel the anxiety of that problem. They are tapping into a primal fear. The fear that something you've worked so hard for can be destroyed in an instant, leaving you helpless and alone. This isn't just about a financial loss. It's about the emotional shock, the disruption of your life, the violation of your sanctuary. The world has suddenly gone sideways and you are not in control. And it is precisely at this peak of desperation, this moment of maximum anxiety, that the magic happens. Act 2. The incantation. One of the characters, usually the more level-headed one, takes a breath. They close their eyes, almost as if making a wish or saying a prayer, and they sing those 5 simple notes. Like a good neighbor. It's quiet at first, almost hopeful. And the other character, still panicked, looks at them like they've lost their mind. What are you doing? The kitchen is on fire. But the first person insists, singing it again, a little louder this time with more conviction. State Farm is there. This is the pivot. The entire emotional trajectory of the commercial hinges on this moment. The jingle is no longer just a piece of branding. It has been transformed into a spell, a summoning charm. In the world of the commercial, it is the only correct answer to the question, what do we do? It's a signal to the audience that the chaos is about to be brought to order. It's a moment of narrative faith. For this to work, the audience has to be conditioned, just like the characters, to believe in the jingle's power. And through sheer repetition across hundreds of commercials, State Farm achieved that conditioning on a massive scale. Hearing the jingle became synonymous with the feeling of impending relief. Which brings us to Act 3, the arrival. And this is where the true genius of the formula lies. The State Farm agent doesn't just answer a phone call and promise to send a form. They materialize. Poof! One moment, the frantic couple is standing in their smoke-filled kitchen. The next, a calm, reassuring man or woman in a crisp polo shirt is standing right there with them, holding a clipboard. They appear out of thin air, sometimes with a slightly bewildered look on their face, as if they were in the middle of making a sandwich and were suddenly teleported across town. This magical appearance is a critical piece of the storytelling. It's a visual metaphor. It says, we are so fast, so reliable, it's like we're magic. It bypasses the boring, realistic logistics of making a phone call, waiting on hold, explaining the situation. Cut straight to the solution. The agent's demeanor is the complete opposite of the homeowner's panic. They are the calm in the storm. They don't flinch at the sight of the smoldering kitchen or the car wrapped around a pole. They've seen it all before. Their first words are never, wow, this is bad. They are always something like, looks like you've had a little trouble here. Or, don't worry, we'll get this sorted out. The agent's role is to absorb the customer's anxiety. They are a human pressure release valve. They take control of the situation, not by magically fixing the damage, but by taking on the burden of the process. They personify the promise of the brand. State Farm is no longer an abstract, faceless corporation in a skyscraper somewhere in Illinois. It's this person. It's Dave. It's Maria. It's someone who showed up in your moment of crisis, put a reassuring hand on your shoulder, and told you everything was going to be okay. The problem isn't solved yet, but the feeling of being overwhelmed and alone is. And in that moment, that's all that matters. Think about the psychological brilliance of this structure. It's the classic problem agitation solution marketing framework, but elevated to the level of modern myth. The problem, a relatable disaster. The agitation, the raw human panic of the characters. The solution, a magical incantation that summons a hero to save the day. Let's look at a classic example. A young man is in his apartment, trying to make a romantic dinner. He's clearly in over his head. He tries to flambe something, and a fireball erupts from the pan, setting off the sprinkler system. Water is raining down, the food is ruined. His date is looking on in horror. He's a picture of utter failure. His girlfriend, seeing his despair, starts to sing the jingle. He looks at her confused. She sings it again. Suddenly, a State Farm agent is standing in their flooded kitchen, holding a leaky bucket and says, wow, big date. In 30 seconds, we've gone on a complete emotional journey. We felt his ambition, his panic, his humiliation, and finally, his relief. The agent doesn't just represent a check that will pay for the water damage. He represents a second chance. He's the guy who shows up and helps you clean up the mess so you can still get the girl. The insurance policy isn't the product being sold here. The product is peace of mind. It's the promise that when your world falls apart, a competent, friendly human being will literally appear out of nowhere to help you put it back together. This formula was a money printing machine. It was infinitely repeatable. You could plug any conceivable domestic disaster into Act 1. A frozen pipe, a fender bender, a hailstorm, a UFO crashing into the garage. Yes, they actually did that one. And the structure would still work perfectly. It was a storytelling engine that transformed a boring product insurance, into a compelling narrative of crisis and rescue. It cemented State Farm in the American consciousness not just as a company, but as a dependable character in the story of our lives. They had created a perfect, repeatable machine for generating brand trust. But even the most perfect machine can become predictable. The element of surprise, that magical poof, could only stay surprising for so long. To stay on top, to keep viewers hooked, State Farm would have to break their own rules and introduce a new, chaotic element into their carefully crafted universe: comedy. The magic jingle was a brilliant Trojan horse. It snuck the State Farm brand into the American consciousness by wrapping a sales pitch inside a moment of magical realism. But here's the thing about magic tricks. You can only be amazed by the same rabbit pulled from the same hat so many times before you start looking for the strings. The novelty was wearing off. The formula, problem, jingle, poof solution was becoming predictable, and in the world of advertising, predictability is death. The challenge wasn't just to sell insurance anymore. It was to hold on to the most valuable and fragile commodity of all: attention. So State Farm's marketing team and their agency Translation made a terrifying, brilliant decision. They decided to mess with the magic. They asked a question that would fundamentally alter their advertising DNA. What if the agent's appearance wasn't always a perfectly timed, divine intervention? What if it was awkward? What if, instead of being the solution, the agent showed up right in the middle of the mess, becoming a witness to the pure, unadulterated chaos of the moment? This was the birth of the State of Unrest campaign, a seismic shift from aspirational problem-solving to brutally relatable comedy. The very first commercials in this new era were a masterclass in comedic tension. Take the hot tub ad. A husband is trying to explain to his wife over the phone that their new hot tub has just crashed through the second-floor ceiling into the living room. It's a moment of pure domestic disaster. In the old formula, he'd sing the jingle, and an agent would appear in a clean, well-lit room to start the claims process. But not here. Here, the agent is already in the living room with him, standing amidst the splintered wood and pooling water, a calm, reassuring spectator to this festival of failure. The husband, still on the phone, whispers to the agent, "I'm gonna tell her you were here." The agent just gives a slight, knowing nod. The comedy isn't in the disaster. It's in the human moment, the little white lie, the shared secret between the customer and the agent. The agent is no longer a magical genie. He's a co-conspirator. He's in on the joke. He gets it. This small change was revolutionary. It transformed the State Farm agent from a symbol of corporate rescue into a person, a neighbor who understands that sometimes, life is just absurd. This new comedic lens allowed them to explore the nuances of oh moments. Another ad featured a wife who backed her car into her husband's car in the garage. The agent is there, sandwiched between the two crumpled bumpers, a silent observer as the husband deadpans, "It's okay, we'll just buff it out." The agent's subtle, disbelieving expression says everything. By placing their agents inside the moment of comedic tension, State Farm was communicating something far more powerful than, "We can fix this." They were communicating, "We're with you in this." It was empathy weaponized as comedy, but this was just the warm-up act. State Farm was about to take this new philosophy and inject it with a dose of celebrity star power so potent it would create a pop culture phenomenon. They were about to introduce the world to the discount double check. In 2011, State Farm launched a commercial that, on the surface, felt simple. It's set in a classic American man cave. A few guys are watching a football game eating snacks. It's a scene playing out in millions of homes every Sunday. One of the guys mentions he saved money by switching to State Farm. His friend is skeptical, goading the State Farm agent who is, for the first time, not a magical apparition but just another guy sitting on the couch with them. The friend says, "So if I get your discount, do I get to hang out with your other client?" And then it happens. Sitting right next to him on the couch, previously unnoticed, is Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, one of the biggest stars in the NFL. Rodgers, with a perfectly straight face, looks at the guy and says, "You're a client?" And then he does it. He mimes strapping on an invisible championship belt. The discount double check. Let's break down the layers of genius here. First, the normalization of the agent. He's not a savior, he's just a friend, part of the social fabric. This makes the brand feel accessible, integrated into your life, not just a service you call in an emergency. Second, the celebrity reveal. It's a perfect surprise, playing on the classic comedic trope of the unexpected cameo. But it's the third layer, the gesture itself, that turned this ad from a clever one-off into a cultural touchstone. The discount double check was Aaron Rodgers' actual on-field touchdown celebration. State Farm didn't invent some cheesy corporate hand signal. They took a genuine, authentic piece of sports culture, something fans already recognized and loved, and they tied it directly to their brand. The result was explosive. It went viral before going viral was a standard marketing goal. Kids were doing it on playgrounds. Fans were doing it in the stands. Other NFL players started doing it to mock Rodgers after a big play. The phrase discount double check entered the national lexicon. It became a meme, a catchphrase, and a free advertising engine that ran 24/7 on sports highlight reels and in school hallways. State Farm had achieved the advertiser's holy grail. They created a piece of marketing that people actively wanted to participate in and share, for free. This campaign fundamentally flipped the script on brand customer dynamics. In the old jingle ads, the power flowed from the company to the customer. State Farm was the hero. In the discount double check universe, the customer is the hero. Aaron Rodgers isn't playing a character. He's playing himself, a satisfied customer so thrilled with his discount that he's become the brand's biggest evangelist. The agent in the commercial is almost a secondary character. His job is just to facilitate the greatness of the product. The message is no longer call us, and we'll save you. It's join us and you'll be a champion, just like Aaron Rodgers. It's an invitation to an exclusive club, and the secret handshake is the discount double check. This 1 30-second spot spawned an entire saga. It created recurring characters, the skeptical friends, the ever-present agent, and a world where superstar athletes just casually hang out in your living room to talk about insurance. They followed it up with sequels, each one building on the lore. One ad had Rodgers getting frustrated that his signature move was being stolen by his own agent. Another featured the guys trying to summon Rodgers by doing the move, only to be disappointed when a regular agent shows up instead. A clever nod to their own old magic jingle formula. They were now so confident in their new comedic identity that they could even make fun of their past self. This wasn't just funny advertising. It was a strategic masterstroke in brand association. For years, insurance was associated with fear, disaster, and complicated paperwork. State Farm, through comedy and a simple, repeatable gesture, managed to associate their brand with victory, with championship belts, with the thrill of getting a great deal. They took one of the most boring products on earth, insurance, and made it cool. They proved that you didn't need a magical poof to get people's attention. All you needed was a great joke, a perfectly timed celebrity, and a move so iconic it could take on a life of its own. But this new chaotic universe of comedy and celebrity couldn't be sustained by just one quarterback and his signature move. To truly build an empire, State Farm would need a new face, a straight man to anchor the escalating absurdity, a character who could be both the butt of the joke and the heart of the brand. They needed to find their Jake. And the story of how they found him is almost as good as the commercial itself. It wasn't through a high-priced Hollywood casting agency. It wasn't by poaching a rising comedian from Saturday Night Live. It was through an internal casting call. The year is 2011. The advertising agency DDB Chicago has a concept. A simple, relatable, late-night scenario. A husband on the phone, a suspicious wife. The punchline hinges on the reveal that he's talking to his insurance agent. For it to work, the agent on the other end of the line needed to feel completely, utterly, and disarmingly normal. He couldn't be an actor playing a normal guy. He had to be a normal guy. So State Farm put out the call to its own employees. And a young agent from Bloomington, Illinois named Jake Stone decided to give it a shot. He wasn't an actor. He was a genuine State Farm employee. He submitted an audition tape, and something about his quiet, unassuming demeanor was perfect. He wasn't trying to be funny. He wasn't trying to sell anything. He was just Jake. This decision to cast an actual employee would prove to be one of the most brilliant marketing moves of the decade. It was a gamble that paid off in a way no one could have predicted, because it injected a dose of raw, unpolished authenticity into a world of slick, overproduced advertising. Jake Stone wasn't a character. He was a person, and that made all the difference. Let's break down the original 2011 commercial, because its genius lies in its profound simplicity. It's a masterclass in comedic timing, characterization, and brand messaging, all packed into 30 seconds. The scene opens in a dimly lit living room. It's late. A man is on the phone whispering, "Yeah, I'm married. Does it matter?" His wife appears at the top of the stairs, her face a mask of suspicion and hurt. The tension is immediately palpable. Every viewer knows this dynamic. It's the stuff of sitcoms and domestic dramas. The wife, seething, snatches the phone. "Who is this?" she demands. And here's where the magic happens. The voice on the other end isn't a sultry, other woman. It's the flat, slightly confused tone of a guy who was just doing his job. It's Jake from State Farm. The wife, not buying it for a second, presses on, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Jake from State Farm? At 3 in the morning? Who is this?" The husband, now desperate, tries to explain. "It's the guy from my insurance." But the wife is relentless. She leans into the phone and asks the killer question, the line that would launch 1,000 memes. "What are you wearing? Jake from State Farm?" The cut to the call center is perfect. We see him, Jake, a regular guy in a bland office cubicle, surrounded by beige walls and the gentle hum of computers. He's wearing a bright red polo shirt, the State Farm uniform. He looks directly into the camera, breaking the fourth wall and speaking not just to the wife, but to the audience. He answers her accusatory question with the most mundane, unsexy, and hilariously honest answer possible. Khakis. That's it. That's the entire joke. And it's perfect. It works on so many levels. First, it completely deflates the domestic drama with the dose of corporate banality. The wife's worst fears are replaced by the most boring reality imaginable. Second, it brilliantly communicates State Farm's core value proposition without ever stating it explicitly. What is the ad really saying? It's saying we're always available, 24/7. Even at 3 in the morning when you're making a paranoid call about your policy, a real person will be there to help you. It's a commercial about reliability, disguised as a joke about infidelity. And that final line, khakis, is a stroke of pure genius. It's the anchor of the entire ad. Why? Because it's so specific and so uncool. He could have said a shirt and pants. He could have said my work clothes. But khakis is the official trouser of suburban dads, IT guys, and yes, insurance agents. It's a shorthand for dependable, unthreatening, and slightly boring. It's the perfect sartorial punchline. The slight hesitation, delivered so naturally by the non-actor Jake Stone, sells the entire moment. It's the sound of a man genuinely confused as to why anyone would ask him this question. He's not in on the joke. He is the joke, and that's why we love him. The ad didn't just air. It detonated. It became an immediate cultural phenomenon. In the early 2010s, the internet was primed for this kind of content. Vine was taking off, Twitter was hitting its stride, and meme culture was becoming mainstream. Jake from State Farm was perfectly memeable. The catchphrase was short, memorable, and funny out of context. People started yelling, "What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?" at friends. The khakis line became a universal response for any awkward question. The character of Jake became a folk hero of the internet. State Farm had accidentally created something far more powerful than a successful commercial. They had created a piece of shared cultural language. Owning a phrase that enters the public lexicon is the holy grail of advertising. It's the "where's the beef?" or the "what's up?" of its generation. It meant that every time someone quoted the ad, they were giving State Farm free advertising. They were reinforcing the brand's identity as accessible, human, and even cool, in its own nerdy way. Jake Stone, the real-life employee, was suddenly a celebrity. He was stopped on the street. He was asked to pose for pictures. He was, for a brief moment, one of the most recognizable faces in America. This viral success revealed a deep-seated desire from consumers. People were tired of being yelled at by aggressive salesmen in commercials. They were tired of aspirational ads showing lives they could never live. They were craving authenticity. Jake wasn't a chiseled actor or a famous athlete. He was just a guy. He felt real because he was real. He represented the idea that behind the giant faceless corporation, there were actual people just trying to do their jobs and help you out. He was the humanization of a brand. While Aaron Rodgers represented the win, the big, exciting, celebrity-endorsed victory of getting a discount, Jake represented the assist, the quiet, reliable 24/7 support that makes the win possible. He was the perfect straight man not just for a single commercial, but for the entire brand universe State Farm was building. He could exist in the same world as the over-the-top scenarios, the magical discount double check, and the mayhem-causing agents, but he would always be the calm center. He was the anchor of normalcy in a sea of absurdity. He was the guy you actually talked to on the phone. But this incredible lightning-in-a-bottle success created a unique and difficult problem. The character of Jake was now an invaluable brand asset, maybe their most valuable. But he was embodied by Jake Stone, a real person who, understandably, didn't want to be a professional actor for the rest of his life. He was a real insurance agent who eventually and quietly left the company. The brand was left with a powerful, beloved character, but no one to play him. The red polo and khakis were an empty uniform. How do you replace an icon? How do you recast a character whose entire appeal was based on the fact that he wasn't an actor, that he was real? Any attempt to do so would feel like a cheap imitation, a corporate fake. It was a creative checkmate. State Farm had built a character too authentic to be replaced, yet too valuable to be retired. They were stuck, and their next move would determine the future of their entire marketing strategy. So they did the one thing that should have destroyed the entire campaign. The one move that violates the cardinal rule of authenticity. They recast him. But they didn't just recast him. They performed one of the most brilliant, self-aware, and surgically precise character handoffs in the history of advertising. To understand how they pulled it off, you have to understand the sheer terror of their decision. Recasting a beloved character is a minefield. Audiences are ruthless. Think about the endless debates over who was the better Dumbledore in Harry Potter, Richard Harris or Michael Gambon, or the jarring switch of Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. In those cases, the characters were fictional. The audience's bond was with the performance. State Farm's problem was 1,000 times more complex. Their audience's bond wasn't with the performance. It was with a person they believed to be real. Jake wasn't a wizard or a sitcom mom. He was Jake Stone, an actual employee from Bloomington, Illinois. His authenticity was the bedrock of the entire campaign. Replacing him with an actor risked exposing the whole thing as a corporate sham. It would be like finding out the sweet old lady in the Wendy's commercials was actually a 25-year-old method actor from Juilliard. The betrayal would be immediate and irreversible. The brand's credibility, which they had spent years and millions of dollars cultivating, could evaporate overnight. The internet would have a field day. The headlines write themselves. State Farm admits Jake was a lie. It would be a catastrophe. So, how do you replace a real person without shattering the illusion of reality? You lean into the absurdity of it. You acknowledge the change head-on, and you make the audience a part of the transition. You don't try to sneak a new actor past them and hope they don't notice. You turn the recast itself into a story. In early 2020, State Farm began to tease the return of Jake. But it wasn't the Jake people remembered. It was a new guy, an actor named Kevin Mims. He was more polished, more athletic, and had undeniable screen presence. And then during the biggest advertising event on the planet, the Super Bowl, State Farm executed their master plan. The commercial they ran wasn't just an ad. It was a public coronation, a passing of the torch. The spot is deceptively simple. It's set in a State Farm call center late at night. The new Jake is on the phone with a customer delivering the classic line, yeah, I'm a real person. Then, sitting at the cubicle next to him, another employee pipes up. It's the original Jake, Jake Stone. He looks over and asks the new Jake a simple question, a question loaded with years of meta-commentary. Hey, do you even wear khakis? The new Jake looks down at his own red polo and khaki pants, a perfect mirror of the original uniform, and replies with a deadpan, yeah, that's it. That's the entire interaction. But in those few seconds, State Farm performed a miracle of brand storytelling. Let's break down the genius of this moment. First, it's a direct acknowledgement. By putting the old and new Jakes in the same room, State Farm wasn't hiding the change. They were celebrating it. They were telling the audience, yes, we know he looks different. You're not crazy. Here they are, together. This disarmed any potential criticism immediately. You can't accuse them of trying to pull a fast one when they put the evidence right in front of you on a 100 million viewer stage. Second, it was a transfer of legitimacy. The original Jake's presence served as an endorsement. His casual, friendly question wasn't one of suspicion, but of camaraderie. It was a veteran welcoming a rookie to the team. By sharing the screen, Jake Stone was essentially giving the new Jake his blessing. He was validating him. The subtext was clear. This is the new guy. He's one of us. He's cool. This bridged the gap for the audience, making the transition feel less like a corporate replacement and more like a natural succession. And third, the dialogue was perfect. Do you even wear khakis? It's a joke that only works if you're in on it. It's a nod to the single most iconic element of the character's wardrobe, the very thing that made him a meme. The line transformed the new actor from a potential imposter into a successor who understands the legacy. His simple, slightly confused, yeah was the perfect response. He wasn't trying to be the old Jake, he was just a guy at work doing the same job wearing the same uniform. With this single commercial, State Farm fundamentally redefined the character of Jake. He was no longer Jake Stone, the specific employee from Illinois. He had evolved into something much more powerful. An archetype. Jake was now a title, a role. He represented the idea of the helpful 24/7 State Farm agent. The person wearing the red polo and khakis could change, but the spirit of Jake, the helpfulness, the reliability, the neighborly presence was permanent. They had turned a person into a symbol. This pivot was not just clever, it was strategically necessary. While the original Jake's authenticity was his superpower, it was also his limitation. Jake Stone was a real person with a real life, not a trained actor. He delivered his one line perfectly, but could he carry an entire cinematic universe of commercials? Could he go toe-to-toe with superstars like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and hold his own? Probably not. The character had become too big for its original vessel. The new Jake, Kevin Mims, was the upgrade. He had the comedic timing, the charisma, and the acting chops to take the character to the next level. He could be more than just a guy on the phone. He could be a protagonist. He could be the calm, reassuring center in a storm of celebrity chaos. He could be the straight man in a buddy comedy with an MVP quarterback. The Super Bowl ad wasn't just about managing a tricky recast. It was about unlocking the character's future potential. State Farm wasn't just saving the Jake campaign. They were preparing it to conquer the entire pop culture landscape. They had successfully swapped out the engine of their race car while it was still speeding down the track, and in doing so they had given it a V8. The new Jake was no longer just a real person. He was a real character with a personality, a point of view, and the ability to drive complex narratives. The transition was complete. Jake was reborn, bigger and more versatile than ever. State Farm had stared into the abyss of a marketing disaster and emerged with a full-blown superstar. And they were just getting started. The question was no longer, who is Jake from State Farm? The question was now, what would they do with him next? They would turn him into a universe. But first, they had to solve a very real, very human problem. The original Jake, Jake Stone, was an actual State Farm employee. He wasn't an actor. He was a guy who got plucked from his cubicle, delivered one line perfectly, and became an overnight sensation. And while that authenticity was the source of his magic, it was also his limitation. A brand can't build a multi-hundred-million-dollar, multi-platform campaign around a real person with a real job who isn't a trained performer. The demands are too high. The schedule is too grueling. You need someone who can hit their marks, deliver 50 takes of the same line with subtle variations, and hold their own on a set with A-list athletes and superstars. The original Jake was lightning in a bottle, but State Farm needed a power plant. They needed a character who could be everywhere all the time. So they made one of the riskiest decisions in modern advertising. They decided to recast Jake. Now this is where most brands fall flat on their face. Replacing a beloved, authentic figure with a polished actor is the marketing equivalent of your favorite indie band signing with a major label and releasing a soulless, auto-tuned pop album. It reeks of corporate calculation. Feels like a betrayal. The audience, which celebrated the original Jake because he felt real, could have easily rejected a new, slicker version. It had all the makings of a new Coke-level disaster. But State Farm didn't just swap out the actor and hope we wouldn't notice. They executed a transition so brilliant, so self-aware, that it not only worked, it deepened the entire mythology of the character. They found an actor named Kevin Miles. He had the look, the red shirt, the khakis, the friendly demeanor, but he also had the chops. He was charismatic, likable, and had impeccable comedic timing. He was the perfect vessel. But how do you introduce him? You do it by paying homage to the original. In a commercial that aired during the Super Bowl in 2020, we see the new Jake talking to a customer. Then the camera pans over to a man standing nearby, who asks, "Hey, do they ask you what you're wearing?" It's the original Jake, Jake Stone. The new Jake, Kevin Miles, looks at him and says with a knowing smile, yeah, it was a meta masterpiece, a passing of the torch." In that single 10-second exchange, State Farm accomplished three things. First, they acknowledged the original. They didn't erase him, they honored him. They showed the audience, we love him too. We remember. Second, they gave the audience permission to accept the new Jake. The original's cameo was a cosign. An endorsement. It told us, it's okay, this new guy is legit. And third, it signaled a new era. This wasn't just a character anymore. It was a role, a mantle like James Bond or Batman. The idea of Jake from State Farm was now bigger than any one person. With the transition complete, State Farm unleashed the full power of their new star. This new Jake wasn't just a voice on the phone in the middle of the night. He was an active participant in his clients' lives. And his clients just happened to be some of the most famous people on the planet. This is the second stroke of genius in the new Jake era. The creation of the State Farm cinematic universe. They paired Jake with NFL superstars Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, not as one-off spokesmen, but as recurring characters in an ongoing sitcom. The dynamic was perfect. You had Mahomes, the young, earnest, incredibly talented quarterback, constantly amazed by the Patrick Price. You had Rodgers, the cool, savvy veteran, a little more cynical, always looking for his own Rodgers rate. And in the middle of it all was Jake, the calm, reassuring straight man. He was the anchor in their chaotic, celebrity-filled world. The commercials stopped being just about insurance. They became episodic stories. We saw Jake at the barbershop with Mahomes. We saw him on set with Rodgers as his stand-in. We saw him mediating disputes between the two quarterbacks over whose discount was better. Each commercial built on the last, creating a narrative thread that pulled you from one ad to the next. We got to know the personalities. We understood the inside jokes. When Mahomes' teammate Travis Kelce showed up to marvel at the Mahomes rate, it felt like a guest star appearing on a beloved TV show. State Farm wasn't just making 30-second ads anymore. They were making 30-second episodes of The Jake and Pat Show. This is a fundamental shift in advertising philosophy. Most celebrity endorsements are transactional. A famous face shows up, says a line, holds the product, and collects a check. It's forgettable. But State Farm built a world. They created relationships. We believed that Jake was actually friends with these guys. We believed he was their agent. He wasn't just selling a product, he was part of their lives. And this universe just kept expanding. The pinnacle of this strategy came in another Super Bowl commercial, this time featuring Drake. The ad is set up like a typical State Farm spot. We see Jake and Mahomes on a commercial set, but then we see their stand-ins. Mahomes' stand-in is Paul Rudd, and Jake's stand-in? It's Drake. The joke is that Drake, one of the biggest stars in the world, is a terrible stand-in who can't get his one line right. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, he says with a cheesy, over-the-top delivery. Jake has to correct him. It's like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. The brilliance of this ad is how it plays with layers of celebrity and self-awareness. You have Drake, the global icon, playing Drake from State Farm, a clear nod to the original Jake meme that started it all. You have Jake, the fictional insurance agent, now a celebrity in his own right, coaching a superstar on how to deliver his lines. The power dynamic is completely inverted. The insurance agent has become the A-lister, the star of the show. He's no longer just a guy in khakis. He's a cultural fixture, a character so well known that he can share the screen with Drake and feel like an equal. Through this strategy, Jake from State Farm transcended the role of a mascot. Mascots like the Geico Gecko or the Pillsbury Doughboy exist to sell you something. They are representations of the brand. Jake, on the other hand, is the brand. He is the living, breathing embodiment of the slogan, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. He's not just a symbol of help. He is the helper. He's not an icon for reliability. He is the reliable friend who shows up. This transformation from a one-note character in a viral video to the central figure in a sprawling cinematic universe is one of the most remarkable feats in advertising history. They took a simple, powerful idea, an agent who is always there for you, and built an entire world around it, a world filled with humor, recurring characters, and genuine storytelling. They made us care about an insurance agent. They made us want to see what he would do next. And in doing so, they embedded their brand not just into our commercial breaks, but into the fabric of pop culture itself. But pop culture is a fickle beast. What's iconic one day is forgotten the next. The very thing that made the original Jake from State Farm ad so brilliant, its authenticity, also became its biggest liability. The man in the red shirt and khakis, Jake Stone, wasn't an actor. He was a real State Farm agent from Normal, Illinois. He won an internal casting call, delivered his one line with deadpan perfection, and accidentally became a meme. But a national, multi-platform, billion-dollar advertising campaign cannot rest on the shoulders of a guy who actually has to sell insurance for a living. The demands are too high. The schedule is too grueling. So State Farm was faced with the classic dilemma. How do you replace an icon? How do you change the face of a beloved character without alienating the very audience that fell in love with him? This is a minefield that has blown up for countless other brands. Recasting a character often feels cheap, a corporate betrayal of the original. But State Farm didn't just recast Jake. They turned the recasting itself into part of the story. In 2020, they aired a commercial that was a masterclass in brand transition. It opens on a classic call center scene. A customer is on the phone, asking to speak to Jake from State Farm. The camera pans over to the new Jake, played by professional actor Kevin Miles, who confidently says, "This is Jake." But then the camera pans a little further, and there he is, the original Jake, Jake Stone, sitting at the next cubicle. He looks over and delivers a line that is both a meta joke and a passing of the torch. "Well, Jake from State Farm, you sound hideous." The new Jake simply replies, "Well, I'm a good-looking dude." It was brilliant. In 30 seconds they acknowledged the change, paid homage to the original, and established the new Jake's personality. Charming, a little cocky, but instantly likable. They didn't try to trick us or hope we wouldn't notice. They invited us in on the joke. They made the audience part of the transition. It was a move that showed immense respect for their own history and for the intelligence of their viewers. And with that, the stage was set for the next evolution of their storytelling. The State Farm Cinematic Universe. With a professional actor now in the lead role, State Farm was free to expand Jake's world beyond the confines of a 3 a.m. call center. He was no longer just a voice on the phone. He became an omnipresent force for good, a literal good neighbor who could show up anywhere, anytime. And he wasn't alone. This is where State Farm's strategy took a dramatic turn, separating them from nearly every other advertiser in their field. They didn't just hire celebrities to endorse their products. They cast them as recurring characters in Jake's universe. And their first and perhaps most important co-star was Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. The initial ads were simple enough. Mahomes, at home with his family or on the practice field, would be talking to his agent. But soon the dynamic evolved. They weren't just ads featuring a football player. They were short comedic sketches about the relationship between a superstar athlete and his surprisingly down-to-earth insurance agent. They built a world with running gags and inside jokes. There was the Patrick Price, a play on the personal price plan, which became a recurring bit. There was Mahomes' unique, slightly Kermit the Frog-esque voice, which other characters, including his own teammates, would hilariously try to imitate. There was his well-documented love of putting ketchup on steak, a personal quirk that the ads transformed into a character trait. These weren't one-off gags. They were narrative threads that carried over from one commercial to the next, rewarding viewers for paying attention. You started to understand the dynamic between Jake and Patrick. Jake was the straight man, the calm, knowledgeable friend. Patrick was the lovable, slightly goofy superstar, grounded by his family and his agent. Then they expanded the cast. They brought in Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, not as a rival to Mahomes, but as another client with his own set of quirks. We met his cheesehead fans, his obsession with the Rodgers rate, and his deadpan comedic timing playing off of Jake's earnestness. Suddenly you had commercials where Jake, Patrick, and Aaron were all interacting, creating a crossover event worthy of a comic book. They added NBA star Chris Paul to the mix, creating a running gag where Jake constantly mistakes him for his long-lost twin brother, Cliff Paul, a character State Farm had actually invented for a campaign years earlier. This deep-cut reference was a signal to the audience. We've been building this world for a long time, and every part of it matters. What State Farm created is something far more sophisticated than what their competitors are doing. Geico has the gecko. Progressive has Flo. These are memorable mascots, to be sure, but they are largely static. The gecko talks about insurance. Flo works in a bright white store. Their stories don't really evolve. They exist in a self-contained bubble to deliver a marketing message. State Farm, on the other hand, built a narrative landscape. Their commercials are not isolated incidents. They are serialized episodes. They have a protagonist in Jake, a supporting cast of global superstars, and an overarching plot that, while simple, is consistent. Life is unpredictable, but your good neighbor is always there to help you make sense of it. This approach is psychologically powerful. When we see Patrick Mahomes in a State Farm ad, we're not just seeing a paid endorser. We're seeing a character we've come to know. We're waiting for the next joke about his voice or his ketchup obsession. We're watching the continuation of a story. This creates a phenomenon known as parasocial interaction, where we begin to feel a one-sided relationship with these characters. We feel like we know them. Jake isn't just an actor in a red shirt. He's the guy who hangs out with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes isn't just a quarterback. He's Jake's friend who needs help bundling his home and auto. This sense of familiarity and continuity fosters a deep, subconscious level of trust and affection for the brand. State Farm stops feeling like a massive, faceless corporation and starts feeling like a part of our entertainment landscape, as familiar and welcome as a recurring character on our favorite sitcom. They took the most boring, anxiety-inducing product imaginable, insurance, and wrapped it in a story so charming and consistent that we actually look forward to the next installment. They transformed the 30-second ad spot from an interruption into an episode, and in doing so, they didn't just sell a product. They built a world and invited us all to live in it. But what are the rules of this world? What is the fundamental law of physics that governs the State Farm commercial universe? It's elegantly simple, and it's right there in the jingle. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. This isn't just a catchy slogan. It's an incantation. It's a literal, functional summoning spell. In the world of these commercials, when a person is in distress, when their car is on fire, when their roof has been destroyed by a satellite, when their she shed is burning down, all they have to do is sing those few simple notes, and an agent magically appears. They teleport, materializing out of thin air, ready to solve the problem. This single creative decision is the bedrock of their entire narrative empire. It transforms the State Farm agent from a person who sells you a policy into a quasi-magical, benevolent guardian. They aren't just a representative, they're a rescuer. The jingle isn't just for brand recall, it's a narrative device. It's the button the characters press to bring order to chaos. This taps into one of the most primal human desires, the wish that in our moment of crisis, a competent, friendly face could just appear and make it all okay. Other brands want their jingle stuck in your head. State Farm wants their jingle to be the prayer you'd whisper in a moment of panic. The agent who appears is never panicked themselves. They are the calm eye of the storm. They are an archetype, the helper, the fixer. While the policyholder is freaking out, the agent is already assessing the situation, clipboard in hand, offering a simple, reassuring phrase. This positioning is genius. State Farm isn't selling you a complex financial product full of deductibles and liability clauses. No, they are selling you peace of mind. They are selling you the feeling of relief you see on the actor's face the moment the agent materializes. The insurance policy is just the tangible artifact of this magical transaction. The real product is the emotion, and they prevent this from becoming cheesy or overly sentimental with a powerful, disarming tool: humor. The situations are almost always absurd. A prize buck smashes through a living room during a card game. A woman is convinced her husband is cheating on her at 3 in the morning, only to find he's on the phone with his insurance agent. A satellite dish operator tells a customer he can't bundle home and auto, and suddenly the customer's house explodes. This absurdity serves two purposes. First, it makes the commercials memorable and shareable, but more importantly, it makes the chaos feel relatable. Life is absurd. Things go wrong in the most ridiculous, unpredictable ways. By wrapping their message of security in a blanket of comedy, they lower our cynical defenses. We laugh at the situation, and in doing so, we absorb the underlying promise. No matter how weird it gets, we've got your back. And nowhere is this formula more perfectly distilled than in the story of Jake. In 2011, State Farm aired a commercial that would become a cultural touchstone. The setup is simple. A husband is on the phone in his living room at 3 a.m. His wife comes downstairs suspicious. "Who are you talking to?" she asks, dripping with accusation. He calmly replies, "It's Jake from State Farm." She doesn't believe him. She snatches the phone and barks, "What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?" And from the other end of the line we get the flat, slightly bored, deadpan response that launched 1,000 memes. Khakis. The ad is a masterwork of comedic tension and release. It captures a universally relatable moment of domestic mistrust and subverts it. The punchline, where the wife assumes Jake must be a seductress and the husband clarifies, "Well, she's a guy, so," is the final brilliant twist. The commercial went viral for a reason. It was funny, it was relatable, and it subtly reinforced the core brand message. State Farm is available 24/7, with a real person on the other end of the line, ready to help. The fact that the original Jake Stone, was an actual State Farm employee from their call center in Illinois only added to the mystique. It blurred the line between advertisement and reality, making the good neighbor promise feel authentic and tangible. For nearly a decade, that single commercial lived on in the cultural zeitgeist. Khakis became a catchphrase. Jake from State Farm became a low-key folk hero. Most brands would have been content with creating one viral hit and moving on. But State Farm understood that they hadn't just created a funny ad. They had created a valuable piece of intellectual property. They had a character. And in 2020, they made a bold strategic decision. They rebooted him. They recast the role with a professional actor, Kevin Miles, and reintroduced Jake to the world. This was a massive risk. The charm of the original was its perceived authenticity. Why replace a real employee with a polished actor? The answer is vision. State Farm realized that the idea of Jake from State Farm was bigger than the original ad. He was the ultimate personification of the helpful, friendly agent archetype they had spent years building. By casting an actor, they untethered him from a single moment in time and transformed him into a recurring protagonist for their entire brand universe. The new Jake wasn't just a voice on the phone. He was on the ground at the scene. He could interact with celebrities like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. He could appear in dozens of different scenarios, always wearing his red shirt and khakis, always serving as the calm, reassuring presence. He was no longer just a character. He was a brand mascot, a superhero whose power was customer service. This evolution from a one-off gag to a central narrative figure is a masterclass in modern brand building. They identified a spark of cultural relevance, nurtured it, and then strategically fanned it into a flame. The new Jake is more charismatic, more omnipresent, but he carries the DNA of the original. He is the friendly face you hope to see when things go wrong. He is the human manifestation of the summoning spell. He is the good neighbor. Through this single character, State Farm has managed to give a face and a personality to an intangible service. When you think of State Farm, you don't necessarily think of policy documents or claims adjusters. You think of a guy in khakis. You think of a friend. They have performed a kind of corporate alchemy, transforming a massive, faceless corporation into a single, approachable individual. They have built an entire world, governed by a simple, magical rule, and populated it with relatable people and one iconic hero. They're not just selling you insurance anymore. They are telling you a story and inviting you to see yourself as the main character. A character who, with a simple song, can summon a hero to save the day. It is perhaps the most successful long-form commercial narrative ever constructed. But this level of storytelling, this deep integration of brand myth into popular culture, also raises a profound question. What happens when the story a company tells is more compelling than the service it provides? What is the ultimate lesson we can learn from this perfect fusion of commerce and narrative? This is the fundamental tension of modern capitalism. The story becomes a form of currency, a promise that exists separately from the tangible product. When the story is potent enough, it creates a powerful halo effect. We are more forgiving of a flawed service if we believe in the company's mission, its character, its myth. We subconsciously grade the experience on a curve because we've already bought into the narrative. The feeling the commercial gave us of safety, of being cared for, can temporarily override the frustration of being on hold or the complexity of filing a claim. The story acts as a buffer, an emotional insurance policy for the brand itself. However, this is a dangerous game. A brand that relies too heavily on a story that diverges from reality is building its house on a foundation of sand. In the age of social media and instant reviews, the gap between the promise and the delivery can become a chasm. One viral video of a customer's bad experience, one expose on claims handling, can shatter the carefully constructed illusion of the good neighbor. The more beloved the story, the more profound the sense of betrayal when the company fails to live up to it. The myth of Jake from State Farm appearing magically by your side is powerful, but it also sets an impossibly high standard. The ultimate risk is that the brand becomes a victim of its own successful storytelling, creating an expectation that its real-world, human-run, profit-driven operations can never consistently meet. So, what is the ultimate lesson here? It's not simply that good stories sell products. That's marketing 101. The deeper lesson from State Farm's masterclass is about the nature of belief and the human need for narrative in even the most mundane corners of our lives. Insurance is a product we buy hoping we never have to use it. It's a transaction based on fear and probability. It is, by its very nature, cold, statistical, and impersonal. What State Farm understood better than anyone is that you cannot sell a product like that by focusing on the product itself. You can't win hearts and minds by talking about deductibles and liability limits. Instead, they chose to sell a feeling. They sold reassurance. They sold community. They sold the deeply resonant, almost primal fantasy that in our moment of chaos, the car crash, the house fire, the fallen tree, we will not be alone. We won't be dealing with a faceless corporation, but with a person, a neighbor, a friend. They transformed a transaction of fear into a relationship of trust. They didn't sell insurance policies. They sold the antidote to the anxiety that makes us buy insurance in the first place. This is the alchemy of great branding. They took an intangible service and attached it to a tangible human emotion. The genius lies in the simplicity of the core idea. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. It's a phrase that operates on multiple levels. It's a slogan, yes, but it's also a promise, a mission statement, and a piece of cultural folklore all rolled into one. It taps into a nostalgic, almost Rockwellian vision of American community, a vision that many people feel has been lost, and which they desperately want to believe in again. We, the audience, are not passive recipients in this process. We are active participants. We want to believe in the good neighbor. We want to believe that a company can be more than just a profit machine. We are hungry for stories that give meaning and humanity to the transactional nature of modern life. State Farm's commercials work because they offer us a narrative that we subconsciously wish were true. We suspend our disbelief because the story they're telling is a story we want to live in. A world where help is just a jingle away is a much more comforting world than one where help is a 45-minute wait on a customer service line. This strategy has been emulated across industries. Think of Apple. They don't just sell computers and phones. They sell a story of innovation, creativity, and defiant individuality. Think of Nike. They don't just sell shoes. They sell the story of human potential, of overcoming limits, of just do it. These companies like State Farm have transcended their products. They sell identity. They sell a worldview. They sell a myth that we can participate in through consumption. The ultimate lesson, then, is a profound one. It's that in a saturated market, the most valuable commodity is not the product or the service, but the story that gives it meaning. The battle for market share is no longer fought on the grounds of features and price alone. It is fought on the terrain of the human heart, in the realm of narrative and myth. State Farm's brilliance was in recognizing that they weren't in the insurance business. They were in the reassurance business. They weren't selling protection for your car. They were selling peace of mind for your soul. And they did it by creating a character universe as simple and effective as any sitcom. The beleaguered husband whispering on the phone at 3 a.m. The magical agent who appears with a reassuring smile. The sports superstars brought down to a relatable human level. Each commercial is a tiny, self-contained 3-act play reinforcing the central theme. Chaos happens, but we'll be there. It's a formula that is endlessly repeatable yet consistently effective, because the underlying human need it addresses is universal and timeless. So the next time you see a commercial, whether it's for a car, a soda, or an insurance policy, look past the product. Look for the story. What feeling are they really selling? What deep-seated human desire are they tapping into? What myth are they asking you to believe? Because the most successful brands of our time are not the ones with the best products. They are the ones with the most compelling answers to these questions. The story of State Farm is the story of how a company took one of the most boring, unloved products in the world and made it a cornerstone of American pop culture. They taught us that you don't need a flashy product to build a beloved brand. You just need a powerful story, told consistently, creatively, and with a deep understanding of what people truly crave. Not just a policy, but a promise. Not just a service, but a savior. In the end, Jake from State Farm isn't just selling insurance. He's selling a modern-day fable. A story where, in a world that often feels disconnected and impersonal, you can still count on a good neighbor. And that, it turns out, is a story we are all willing to buy.